do you think about when someone brings up a musical? Hi, I'm Ian from Trey and Ian's Broadway Show, and this episode was co-written by Chance Colbert from Apokalupsis Historia. Even modern marketing today can show you that a lot of musicals are trying to play down the fact that they are actual musicals. I know my co-writer definitely prefers Shakespeare to Sondheim, but there was something about Company that really connected with both of us. When most people think of musicals, they think of something that's not unakin to circus, or maybe a vaudeville song style and dance, or maybe even something that's so kind of operatic that it's overly saccharine. You would probably think of classic Golden Age musicals with giant ensemble numbers and dance breaks. Or mega musicals like Phantom, Wicked, or Hamilton, which have become colossal hits and created fans all around the world. But what if there was a musical that was the opposite of all those shows? What if there was a show that is so archetypal that it lends itself to reimagination countless times over the year? What if there was a musical that was about a struggling single person talking to their married friends? Company, with a book by George Firth and music and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim, is a show that is the antithesis of most Broadway shows. Unlike most productions which feature large dance numbers, productions of Company almost always use minimalist sets and costumes with little to no dancing at all. And according to Stephen Sondheim, Company is simply about a man with no emotional commitments who reassesses his life on his 35th birthday by reviewing his relationships with his married acquaintances and his girlfriends. That is the entire plot. And what's cool about Company is it's the first real concept musical. And a concept musical is a show that centers around a central theme rather than a traditional plot. But the lack of narrative isn't the only unconventional aspect of the show's construction. It's also non-linear. Sondheim elaborates that the show takes place not over a period of time, but in an instant in Robert's mind. Perhaps on a psychiatrist's couch, perhaps at a moment when he comes into his apartment on his 35th birthday. The framework is a surreal surprise party for him. And most importantly, it is what Sondheim calls his first attempt at evening-length irony. And I absolutely loved this statement. And Chance and I went back and forth on what exactly Sondheim meant when he said irony, because it can be interpreted in many different ways. I was thumbing through Look, I Made a Hat, and unrelated, I found a revision. This revision was simple. It was a correction from his first book, and it said exactly what Sondheim meant by irony. It simply said, irony is a form of subtext, meaning this show is structurally built on subtext by tonally pivoting the lyrics and the score against each other. Now, this device would be honed and used by Sondheim for his entire career, but it may be best displayed by what he calls this first attempt. However, the show has had polarized reactions from audiences and critics alike. While many proclaim that this show is as revolutionary today as it was when it premiered in 1970, others hold that the show is cold, a descriptor that would follow Sondheim throughout his career. And in his own words, people either reacted with fervent admiration or ferocious rejection. I want to talk about why this piece is so polarizing and better understand the gulf between the admirers and the detractors. How can this show be simultaneously a fascinating and funny window into and mirror of adulthood, and yet a cold clinical date with boredom? Many movies and Broadway shows shine on the face value of their text, while Company's message lies almost entirely in its subtext. And I believe that that's why Company is one of Sondheim's best musicals. And I think that's why Company continues to thrive, live, and evolve. And it still impacts the art form year in and out since its introduction over 50 years ago. But let's talk about concept musicals. Concept musicals were birthed in the late 70s with shows like Fiddler on the Roof, Man of La Mancha, and Cabaret. While all those shows eschewed a complex plot for a more central theme, Company's plot is much more stripped down than any of those other examples. Those shows may have had moments where the message was entirely subtextual, but eventually the subtext bubbled to the surface and became text. This never happens in Company. We, like Bobby, are left to sit with each of these social interactions, and we're asked to think about how they make us feel. But if a concept musical is about a central theme, what is the theme of Company? Is it simply a story about marriage? Is it about independence versus companionship? Is it about personal growth? Is it about not changing, but being open to change? I think all of those things could be accurate, but none of them really truly sum up the show. To boil down Company to a central theme would be like trying to find a singular theme to adulthood. It's just not possible. Our experiences are too diverse. They're too nuanced. Each song of Company pits the music against the lyrics to provide a nuanced take that couldn't have been achieved outside of musical theater. And I want to focus on a couple musical numbers that I don't think receive enough love. So let's take the lyrics from Sorry, Grateful. And I want you to think about how these lyrics may make you feel about marriage. In this scene, Bobby asks a friend, do they feel sorry that they got married? And he responds, you're always sorry, you're always grateful. You hold her thinking, I'm not alone. You're still alone. You don't live for her, you do live with her. You're scared she's starting to drift away, and scared she'll stay. Good things get better, bad get worse. Wait, I meant that in reverse. Now, quoting the lyrics to this song would imply a harsh view of marriage, and it may seem that Sondheim is trying to caution people against marriage. Now, let's take a listen to the song with the score.
You're always sorry, you're always grateful, you hold her thinking, I'm not alone, you're still alone. You don't live for her, you do live with her, you're scared she's starting to drift away, and scared she'll stay. Good things get better, bad get worse. Wait, I think I meant that in reverse.
The score says something different. With a sweepingly romantic score, the music of Company tells us that this struggle and strife can be worthwhile. The duality of the song makes it one of my favorite love songs ever written. And on the other end of the spectrum from Sorry Grateful is Barcelona. Barcelona is a deceptively simple song that uses the repetition of two chords to show Bobby's conflicting inner hesitation.
Where you going?
Barcelona,
Oh,
don't get up.
do you have to?
Yes, I have to.
Oh,
Don't get up.
And Bobby is singing the praise of a lover whose name they can't remember.
look, you're a very special girl, not just overnight. No, you're a very... Not because you're bright, not just because you're bright. You're just a very special girl, June. April.
They are so half-heartedly asking this lover to stay that when Bobby actually gets what they want, they immediately feel regret.
Okay,
What?
I'll stay.
But... Oh, God.
Even the opening itself is an anxiety-provoking display of affection. I recently saw the national tour of the newest Company revival, and it was stunningly elaborate, and it gender-bent several major roles, including Bobby. And I think this production fully understood the strengths and the weaknesses of the show. Bobby's rush to get married seems heightened by a biological clock, which couldn't have been present for a male Bobby. The dream ballet from the original production, Tick-Tock, is reimagined as a nightmarish scene where Bobby sees multiple versions of herself going about daily life with each of the men she is currently dating. But even Bobby's hesitancy to voice her opinion seems more relatable for a female character. Also, the struggles of Amy, who is now Jamie, is given more context in an age where gay couples are trying to decide whether they want to engage in the heteronormative practice of marriage. This production constantly uses stage magic and inventive sets to keep the die-hard Company fans on the edge of their seat. This production also adds a whole nother layer of subtext to the work while providing a more spectacle-driven look at the source material. Marianne Elliott's direction shows us why this is a classical piece that demands reinterpretation. And to quote Sorry Grateful,
everything's different, nothing's changed, only maybe slightly rearranged.
I love this production. I've rarely seen more people leave at intermission, though. I think the problem is you can't passively engage with Company. Even in Bobby's proud decision at the end of the show, it's simply to be alive. Bobby hasn't committed to anything, yet somehow we feel a change in Bobby. Company doesn't give you these answers. It requires the viewer to divine their own meaning. And at the end of the day, it is mostly people sitting around and talking about their lives. So if that's not your thing, then... But I have rarely seen a more honest piece of theater. And despite its polarization, I still think it's one of the greatest pieces of musical theater ever made.